Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, to today's weekly live stream. I decided that since we had such a successful live stream where everybody wanted to ask questions, actually, I probably didn't get around to everybody's question. Today, I'm going to do a live stream. Just like I think what I'm going to start doing is every other weekend do live streams where you can ask me anything instead of just me rambling on for an hour about a certain topic. And then I'll also do topics so that you can ask questions and specifically. And if you have a topic that you'd like streamed, then let me know on my Facebook group or reach out to me, DM me through Facebook. Just a couple of things before we get started. Welcome, Cindy. Welcome, Kai. Welcome, Sedona. I'm going to let a couple more people get in the room. I didn't announce it on my Facebook group, unfortunately, so we might have a small audience tonight, which is good because that way I will be able to try to get to everybody's questions. So before I start, a little bit of housekeeping. Next weekend, I won't be having a live stream, or I'm going to try to. I'm going to be in Cozumel. We're taking off on the 10th, which is going to be, I think, on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. And or we're going to be there on the 10th on Sunday. So I'm going to be traveling. So I'm not going to be able to do, hello, Marion and Yamilet, how are you doing? I'm not going to be able to do the live stream, but I am going to do a live stream during the week, like I did the last time from Cabo, from Cozumel. We're going over there to another vacation, so to speak, now that our house is built, not totally completely built, but it's almost there. Hey, Gringos are us and Profe. Nice to always see you guys here. And the other thing is that I will be in Cozumel, so I'm going to try to do the same thing. The only thing is I'm convinced that hotels or resorts, we have a place that we're going to be staying. We don't do the all-inclusive thing, but it's a resort. I'm convinced that a lot of resorts block your cell phone coverage and make it really horrendous and then the Wi-Fi is horrendous so that they make you pay for extra Wi-Fi. But hopefully we'll see. If I have to pay for Wi-Fi again, I don't remember this particular hotel. We stay there all the time, but I've never tried to do a stream from there. But I'm taking my hotspot and everything else, and I'm going to be streaming from the iPad, so it's going to look just like it did from Cabo. Not going to be as good a quality as today. Just before we start, we're getting a lot more people in here. Just before we start, one thing hey, James and Rena from Mahihik, welcome. One thing that I want to bring up, I know I've been doing a lot of videos calling people out and that type of stuff, but one thing that I want to bring up is that I've been noticing some comments, and they usually go into my held for review, and I'm going to let people know, look, I'm not trying to be mean here or whatever, but usually when you place a link, it's held for review for me to review it. And this is about the second or third time this has happened. But I know the expat community, we love to prove each other wrong, or we love to argue on Facebook. But this is the second time that someone's posted, I think the first time was when I was talking about immigration, and then someone posted a video link like, you're full of it. And then he posted a link to Jose Arteaga's video on how you can live without having to meet the immigration requirements. First of all, the immigration video that he was talking about had nothing to do with our topic. It was an immigration video where Jose Arteaga says you can run to the border every 6 months and not worry about it and do border runs as many times as you want and everything's going to be okay. Then just lately, I don't know another immigration issue, and then he posts another link to Jose Arteaga's video about, I don't know, about how immigration can't stop you because it's against the Constitution and your right to free travel. Well, Jose Arteaga is wrong because he's talking about Article 10 of the Constitution. The problem, here's the thing, and I'm not trying to put down Jose, but what I want to try to explain here is there's two things that I'm trying to keep control of in my Facebook group. I want accurate information, and I also want to make sure that we don't sit here and fight and argue and everything else. First of all, just because some other YouTuber said something or made a video on it doesn't make it true, even with me. If you have something that you think that I should that I should correct, then let me know. But it's with constructive criticism, not just another video without any kind of supporting evidence, without anything, because I'm willing to look into anything that you do. Um, Here's the thing: I'm not here to put down Jose. I've told you many times he's got a very impressionable story. He's come here with nothing. YouTube's his business. But what I do want to say here is that a lot of times he has two problems. One problem is his ego won't let him say he's wrong. And the next problem is he also plays with words. And a lot of times, just like what happened, I did 3 videos on this about how you can get residency without having to prove financial solvency because there's a law. Okay. It's just like me saying in Texas, I can kill somebody. There's a law in Texas that says I can kill somebody. And yeah, there is a law in Texas that says I can kill somebody, but it's in self-defense. There's certain things behind that law. So to just say I can kill somebody in Texas because there's a law doesn't incorporate the whole thing. And that's also what happened with all of these other YouTubers that are making videos and saying that you can do this. All they did was quote an article of the law, and that isn't the whole law. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not the whole picture. So please, if I'm going to tell you right now, if I get these, I delete them because I'm not going to give out inaccurate information. Also, if I do make any kind of mistakes, please feel free to comment. Tell me what mistakes I made. As a matter of fact, I've made several mistakes, and there's several people in my Facebook group that are very, very well versed in the law and that have corrected me. And hey, I'm willing to say I was wrong. And as a matter of fact, I try to get the correct information out there. So, and also in the Facebook group, I haven't seen this happen lately, but I got a great Facebook group. I want to make sure that everybody stays awesome and nice to each other and everything else. So let's get on to the questions. Anybody have any questions about moving to Mexico, traveling to Mexico, anything else like that? Anybody want to discuss anything or anything about? Okay. How much does it cost for private in-person Spanish lessons from a professional Spanish teacher in Ciudad? Some Facebook posts are saying 300, 500 pesos an hour. There's all sorts of there's all sorts of services out there, everything from online to personal tutors. There's different online platforms, like Rosetta Stone and all of that stuff. I'll tell you how I learned. I didn't get a tutor. I used it's a conversational platform when I was learning Portuguese, and it's called Pimsleur. I think they even have it in an app now. And it's conversational Spanish or Portuguese or whatever language it is, but it's sort of like Pimsleur had this idea of repeating something. If you repeat something so many times and then you wait a period of time and then repeat it again, it's easier to learn. It's a really great system, and I really learned from it. As far as how much it cost, 300 to 500 pesos an hour doesn't sound, especially for Ciudad Mex, doesn't sound unreasonable. But I'll tell you what, Kai, I would start, and you probably have already because I know you've been planning for a while. I would start with now Rosetta Stone. I tried the Rosetta Stone when I was trying to learn Portuguese. There's another one called Duolingo and Babbel, I think. But the one that I was the most successful was Pimsleur. And the way it works is he'll say something in Spanish. You want to ask your friend to go to the restaurant, and then you go, vamos al restaurante. And then you tell him, the meat is good there. El carne está muy bueno ahí. And then he comes back and says, how do you tell your friend that you want to go to the restaurant? And then you have to repeat. So it's kind of like he spaces it between, but you're repeating these words. And it's supposed to help you get conversational Spanish. So That's where I would start, and then maybe start going with the tutors for the 300 and 500 pesos an hour later on when you're a little bit further along in your journey. I can flap my arms and fly. I almost can flap my arms while I'm. Everall. So they're still having the regularization program in place. Right now, Everall, it's still in place. They have changed a couple of things, like in San Miguel, that if you have repeated entries, um, if you have repeated entries, you might not get approved in San Miguel. Um, so they're changing it now. Here's the thing with the regularization program: they keep saying it's going to go away, but it hasn't gone away. And here's the hard part about this is that it's evaluated every 6 months. So June, we're kind of good till January. And then in January, they're reevaluated. Some offices have discontinued it, continued it, discontinued it. I don't know, but there's a lot of word that they want to get rid of this regularization program. One of the reasons for the regularization program was for those people that were running to the border every 180 days. And there was also a period of time where people were just living here illegally, irregular. That's what they call it. They weren't regular, but they were living here, and this was a chance for, and everybody says it was COVID, but no, it's actually a chance to give those people that were here for some period of time that didn't have the means to legalize to do it. COVID just happened to be one of, and actually when they started it, it started under humanitarian reasons. And now Mexico's always had the regularization program. It existed. All immigration does is they instate it, or they'll reinstate it, or then they'll quit using it. It just depends on what the situation is. This is why I warn people that if you're trying to come now and they're kind of giving 180-day, well, they are most of the time, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, they're giving 180 days at the airports or at the land borders. It's you're kind of taking a chance. You do your 180 days and then you kind of wait here and wait for it to expire. Well, if it's already January or February and they got rid of it, then you're kind of out of luck. So it's kind of a shoot in the air, but it's still available. And it actually, some of the offices are even loosening up on the requirements. Some of the offices where if you had it last year, expired, you had to have it expired from last year. Now some are accepting it this year as long as you made entry last year. So it just depends on where you go. I think Merida and Hualtuco, I think, are the ones that are the most lenient on that program. And Gringos R Us is giving some good advice. Try them all. This is to Kai probably. Try them all. Different people learn in different ways. What works for one may be different for someone else. And that's actually true. Gringos R Us, I've actually known some people that have been very, very successful with Rosetta Stone because it's picture based. So, and hey, Lisa, how are you doing? And that just said, yes, it depends if it's online, Zoom, in person, school, etc. Because there are some schools, Kai, that you can go to. And actually here in Monterrey, there's an English Spanish place where they hire bilingual speakers, and you can actually go and go into a classroom. So it all depends. So anything else? Any other questions? Graduate of 4-year engineering degree at age 20, spent 1 year in mainland Europe. He learned 7 languages in 1 year. Yeah, well, I was only able to learn 1 language. So, any more? Any questions about immigration? Anything about living in Mexico? My trip to Cozumel? Okay, here. Do you, let me see if I can pull this one up. It's okay. And Kai, do you have to have an appointment to get your RFC? I've heard from a facilitator that they will check to see if there are any appointments available when I'm in Ciudad Mex, and it'll cost $150. Kai, yes, you do have to make an appointment. There's an actual scheduling system that they use for Hacienda. And actually, you go onto this website. If you're utilizing a facilitator, they will make that's why they're saying they'll check to see if there's anything available when you go there. 150 USD is probably very, very good because I paid a little bit more than that to get my RFC done. I didn't have to go to Hacienda. The only issue that I had with having this facilitator do it, and actually probably the best bet would be for you to get the facilitator to get all that stuff for you and get an appointment so you can go in person, because I didn't get the e-firma. It's the electronic signature where they take your biometrics and then they give you a little you have to take a USB key, and then in order to log in, you need to have that USB key or the key, and it's really hard. But the other problem is that they used an address in Oaxaca, and for me to change it was like, I had to go in, get my ear firma, and then I had to, a family friend that is an accountant actually changed my address and my stay, or my constancia is what they call it. So yes, there is a website. If you're using a facilitator, that's better, because the website here's the thing with the website. When I went on the website, it was like a waiting list. And then they would tell you, we'll send you an email when we're ready. And because it was all full. At the time that I did it, it was when everybody needed to get their RFC and everybody was, it was backed up. And then like a day before, they'd say, oh, tomorrow's your appointment. And then the email was running behind. Actually, my wife had an appointment for her firma, and luckily I went and checked online. It says it's tomorrow, so she went, got her firma, and then when she got her firma, the following day she got her email saying your appointment is tomorrow, or was yesterday. So it's good to get a facilitator. James and Rena, how is construction on the home? Actually, James, we are in the house. We're actually moved into the house. And we still have some details to go. It's not completely finished, but it's pretty much almost there, almost there. We're going on 1 year of construction, a little bit over a year. We'll probably never do it again. It was a hassle trying to do everything by ourselves, but we are getting ready to go and do our stuff and go to Cozumel and take a vacation we already went to Cabo, and we're going to go to Cozumel to take a break from the back and forth with the contractor. But we're almost there. I mean, everything, the structure's here, everything's here, but there's just little things. We have a cistern for the water for whenever there's a water shortage that hasn't been installed yet. We just finished planting the grass. We have a couple of little details inside the house, but for the most part, we're pretty much in. I'm actually automating the house, putting everything, making it a smart home. So, and I actually, when we designed it, I designed it so that we could put in smart switches and everything else. So it's been pretty fun. That's what I'm doing now. For them to make an appointment, okay, and go with you to get your RC. Yeah, they will go with you and help you. The only thing, Kai, let me tell you something. It's kind of like immigration. The facilitator will go with you to your appointment to make sure that you have everything, that you have everything done. The only thing that I do warn you is that the facilitator can't go in with you. You have to go in by yourself. Usually they'll have somebody in Hacienda that'll speak English, or the best you can do. Just make sure. Here's the other thing that a lot of people made a mistake, is that they didn't get their e-firma. They just said, oh, give me my RFC. and they issued the RFC, just make sure you get their e-firma and take a USB drive with you. Your facilitator will know what that is, and they'll know what to do. They'll probably give you the same advice, because that's the only way you can really change anything without having to go back and make another appointment. And even when if you make another appointment, you know what they're going to do? They're going to tell you, sign up for e-firma and make the changes online. So you got to make another appointment to get your biometrics taken, and then you have to get your e-firma, and then you can make your changes. Okay. Sedona. I have a Charles Schwab debit card. I had to let them know that I'll be using it in Mexico while on my 2-week trip. They put a travel notice on my account. Can I use it without a travel notice? Actually, Sedona, I don't. I know that everybody, all my banks in the United States. Oh, wow. I just had a Rosario Avila just subscribed. Thank you, Rosario. Just subscribe to the channel. Sedona, actually, as far as the travel notices, I've also with the credit cards, they'll also do that. You can go into the application and say, I'll be out of town. I pretty much have traveled freely back and forth from the United States. We go to McAllen a lot. So today I'm using it actually the same day I'm using it to fill up with gas in Mexico. And then maybe like 3 hours later, I'm purchasing something in the United States. What I have had happen to me is that usually the fraud department will send me a text message and say, hey, we have were these charges just made in your account? But it doesn't happen that often. Usually the banks that I use, and I think Charles Schwab is pretty good about it, and also even with my credit cards, I haven't really bothered to do the travel notice. Now, if you want to make sure that you don't get embarrassed, because I have gotten embarrassed and I put my credit card down and it's like, sorry, we won't take that one, or it's been declined. And then I have to either wait for a text message or I give them another one. And then they say, okay, thank you. And then I get the text message. And then, and then the other thing is make sure you have some type of, that's the other thing. If you don't have access to your telephone doesn't roam in Mexico and you can't get the text message, then you want to make sure you have a travel notice out. I just choose to use my cards freely, and whenever they say, hey, send me an email, and I get it on my phone and I just respond, yeah. And then I have a Wi-Fi calling with Cricket, so when I can get on a Wi-Fi, I can call my debit card and say, hey, yeah, I'm in Mexico. These charges they confirm it and they let you use it. So usually when you come down here, like for 2 weeks, I would go ahead and put that travel advisory on there. And then when you come down here and you start using it on a when you start using it on a regular basis, they're going to see that you're using it on a regular basis. Where you're going to have a problem is, like I said, I'm making a charge in Mexico for gas, and 2 hours later, I'm in Texas making a charge for, I don't know, I bought clothes or something. And then they're going to say, how can you be in Mexico and the United States at the same time? And then that's when it's gone off. But most of the time, they don't usually. And I think Charles Schwab is probably one of the best. Everybody talks about Charles. I've even thought about switching to Charles Schwab myself. And actually, gringos, I absolutely can use Charles Schwab. We use it all the time here in Mexico. Fantastic account. Everybody talks about it. And then they also reimburse you for your ATM fees and any kind of other fees, because sometimes they get, the VAT, they give you a VAT tax fee here for utilizing the ATM, but they'll reimburse you. James and Reed. Can't wait to see a tour. Actually, I've got some footage that I took while we were constructing it, and I'll try to do a tour of the house as soon as it's presentable. We're still fixing stuff up. Sedona. So does Charles Schwab have restrictions on using its card if you live in Mexico permanent? No, they don't. Actually, I haven't found a bank that has any restrictions. All my credit card, I have one credit card that's a Mexican credit card. We pay it off every month. You don't want to get a Mexican credit card because basically it's like 20% a month, not 20% a year. It's really super high interest rates. We only did it because later on if we ever need credit here in Mexico for whatever reason. Actually, even with credit, you don't want to get credit because the interest rates are super high. But we got it, and we pay it off every month. And then also with Mexican credit cards, you can do this thing where you can pay 12 payments or whatever on deals. So sometimes we do that. But all my other credit cards are U.S. credit cards. And I talk credit cards because your debit card is also tied to a credit card company, usually MasterCard or Visa. So I have never had any problems with my debit cards or my credit cards. They're all U.S. credit cards. And pretty much I use Chase Sapphire. I get the going exchange rate, and they don't charge me, what do they call it, foreign transaction fees. Also, same with Charles Schwab. You get the going, the only thing with Charles Schwab that I've said in a previous in a previous video about using ATMs is when they say, this is the exchange rate we'll give you at 15 to 1 instead of 17 to 1 or 16 to 1 or we'll give you 16 to 1 instead of 17 to 1. What you want to do is make sure you say no and take the bank, and then you'll get this warning on the ATM machine that'll say, well, just be aware, the exchange rate could be different. Don't worry about that. You're going to get a better exchange rate because you're going to get the going exchange rate for the day, the official bank exchange rate. It's a way of the banks trying to rip you off of money, basically. So that's one of the ATM. Well, it's kind of a scam, I guess you might say, kind of a legal scam that banks use at the ATMs. So if you are taking out money with Charles Schwab or you're using your credit card to buy anything, make sure they charge you in pesos, because some of the terminals, when they notice that it's an American card, will say, do you want to be charged in dollars or do you want to be charged in pesos? And never say dollars, always say pesos, so you get that exchange rate. We Gringos, we remember when we toured the house 10 months ago and saw how far along it did. Glad that you're there now. Thanks, Gringos or us. Yeah, it's been a while. And actually, Gringos Are Us just answered the question also like I just did. They live here. They've been here in Mexico permanently. They're using a Schwab account, and they've had no problems. And I've had no problem. I have Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo hasn't had any issues. They don't, and I really don't. I transfer money over here to my Mexican account. So RA. Everybody uses Schwab. I have a Schwab card and never had an issue anywhere. Worst is that you'll need to watch the high fees if it's early in month, because they only refund all fees at once at the end of the month. Okay, I didn't know. I know that they return the fees. I have another bank account that I use a debit card with but it's a Texas bank, and they reimburse me the fees, but they do it right away. And then I use Wells Fargo for my main account because I have for years, and I just never changed it. And I've always thought about changing to Charles Schwab. Oh, and Mexico Adventurer, I have a permanent travel notice for 3 years now. Last month I flew, received both email, text, verify, flight charges. And yeah, exactly. Mexico Adventure that's what I was talking about for me, is that that's what I was talking about for me, is that every once in a while when there's I go back to the States, or I come back to Mexico from the States, I'll usually get this email alert or something, say, hey, did you make these charges? And sometimes it's a text. They do it with a text message. And then all I do is say yes. And then it'll say, okay, you can use your card again. The only inconvenience is that sometimes you're sitting there and you want to pay right away, and you don't want to wait for the text message or have to call. I have a backup Fidelity cash management debit card. I'm going to try it. In addition to my Bank of America debit card, use it at Scotiabank because B of A has a relationship with Scotia. Yeah, B of A has and BBVA also has a relationship with BBVA. There's BBVA in the United States. HSBC also in the United States. They have HSBC here. Scotia is associated, like you said, with B of A. So most of the banks have affiliations, but you also got to remember they're separate banks under different banking regulation. Just because it's BBVA, now I do know that sometimes they give you benefits. Like BBVA, we opened a BBVA account before I moved here, and oh, you can transfer money to your BBVA account in Mexico, but their exchange rate just wasn't good without the fees. But there's not very much of an advantage to getting an account with an associated bank. It's just whatever is best for you. That's what I would always say. Uh, Thank you very much for the information about Charles Schwab. I appreciate everyone's answer. And thank you, Sedona, for coming on and asking that great um, it, it, that great information. Oh, Mexico Venture says Cricket is I use Cricket. I've never had any issues with them. Um, Actually, it was the cheapest that I could do because they're AT&T. They roam on AT&T here. I haven't had any issues. Mexico Adventure. Uh, I've had them for actually. I switched because T-Mobile wanted to disconnect me for roaming in Mexico. They roam here in Mexico uh, unlimited, and I've never. And actually, I even looked at the terms of service because some terms of service they actually have it in there. The only restriction they do have on roaming, on the unlimited roaming, is in Canada. Now I do know Cricket has changed their plans. I'm on a legacy plan where I'm getting the phones for next to nothing, like literally $30 a line, and not only $30 a line, but it's unlimited, the 5G and everything. The only thing I will say about Cricket is whenever we go back to the United States, now depends. When we go back to the border, because everybody uses Cricket, the service stinks. I mean, literally next to none. Actually, I have a Telcel phone that I'm programmed into that I roam on T-Mobile because they deprioritize you in Cricket in the United States. And if you're now, when I go to Santa Fe, New Mexico, my Cricket service is outstanding. But in Mexico is the one I'm worried about, that I'm able to use my Wi-Fi calling, and I've had nothing but great. It roams with AT&T. Have had no problem. I get the same speed as AT&T. If I have an AT&T line here, as anybody that has an AT&T line here, and then I also have an eSIM with Telcel for a Mexican number that I just programmed Telcel. So I have both services. So where one doesn't work, the other one will. RA, this is one of the reasons why you might want to get a Mexican credit card. But like I always warn, do not. Actually, they even have Costco has a great Mexican credit card that you get money back on purchases. The other thing is you get money back on your purchases. And also, I think, who is it that has HSBC has one for Viva Aerobus where you can get extra points, airline points. The only thing that I always say is pay that credit card off at the end of the month, unless you're doing one of those 12 payments or whatever. Then make sure that you do that you get that credit card paid off at the end of the month, because the interest rate will probably be more than your balance. And yes, you do need an RFC if you want to get a credit card here. And also, the way I was able to get a credit card was through BBVA, because I had a certain amount of money in my account, and they offered the credit card, and they give you the credit card deemed on how much. But I'm building a credit line, and there are some really good deals with credit cards here, but you just want to make sure you pay that sucker off at the end of the month. And the only one I will take is BBVA right now, because I can literally go into the app and, pay from my Mexican account straight into my BBVA card. Sometimes I'm going to warn you about stuff that's really easy in the United States, like getting on an online website, even stuff as easy as supposedly paying your telephone bill. Half the time these systems are down. The Telcel app, when I try to pay my bill, one credit card, not debit card, expired, so I put in another debit card, and then I had to replace that debit card, and then I go to put in another one and it won't let me put in another debit card. The systems here sometimes for online services, and then I had some issues in San Miguel where I paid a internet bill, but they kept saying that, hey, after I paid the internet bill, they kept saying, sorry, we're going to cut off your internet till we receive it, because they were using an online payment processor that was really super slow, and until they got the money in the bank. So you got to be very judicious when you talk about getting a credit card here and paying it off or whatever, even though they might have an online service, bill pay or whatever. Sometimes they might count you late because it takes 3 days for the money to get there. So the online systems here, security, and it's all in the name of security. Sometimes it's almost impossible to log into a website here because there's so many authentication methods. Yeah, it's secure. It's really secure. It's so secure that, oh, I'm sorry, that was your last myth. It's so secure that you can't even get into the website. So not getting into the website, it makes it pretty secure because you can't break in. You can't even log in to do your own stuff. So you have to be, sometimes the systems are very, and also there's a lot of fraud here. So there's a lot of systems in place to make sure. The other thing that I'll also warn you about is never, ever, and I think I'm going to do a live on this, is no one's ever going to call you. We've gotten calls from the bank that sound really like supposedly from the bank. They'll rob your information or an employee, and they'll sell it to somebody, and they'll even say, hey, we got this here, charge on your account, blah, 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 blah. And we basically said, okay, well, we'll call you back. And those scams happen in the United States too. That there's nothing different. Those scams happen in the United States too, but don't ever, we even got a call one time saying that they were from the judicial police, and they got a call from the number and they wanted to make sure everything was okay. What's your address? And we said, okay, well, we'll call you back. And they hung up. So, I also brought up, Gringo, another one now is a 3-hour insurance on your transaction. I didn't know about that for ATM transactions. Yes, jet lag. Hey, Mexico Adventure, AT&T has an unlimited roaming without any time limit on AT&T Mexico. This is one of the things that I actually brought to everybody's attention when I was doing the cell phone thing. AT&T, there's an AT&T in Mexico, so it's the same company. And I explained it before. Telcel has a roaming contract with T-Mobile. T-Mobile has a roaming contract with Mexico, Telcel. So when you come over here with the T-Mobile phone, it roams on Telcel, and when you go over to the United States, it roams on T-Mobile. The problem with that is that they're roaming contracts, that they have agreements, and of course, they don't want one side overusing the towers or the other side. So there's things in place with T-Mobile, like for example, if you use more than 50%, they say more than 50%, but it's not in a year. It's like they do it every 3 months. They evaluate your account, and if you've been roaming, they send you a text message. They'll cut you off. AT&T doesn't do that because AT&T roams with AT&T. So it's sort of like, it's the same company, of course, as AT&T Mexico and AT&T United States. They're different companies, but there's the same corporation. So they utilize their own towers. So, and actually, believe it or not, that's why I use Cricket. And because I get the lines for super cheap. And not only that, but I roam here with no deprioritized access. I roam here just like I was connected. As a matter of fact, it says AT&T on my thing, LTE. And in the places where I get 5G, it even says AT&T 5G, and where AT&T has 5G here in Mexico, and I don't get deprioritized. The only thing is, if I had an actual AT&T US account, then when I go back to McAllen, then I would be prioritized, and I wouldn't, but I don't spend more than a day there or a couple of days there. And I have Telcel that roams with T-Mobile that works really well. So I have an option. But yes, AT&T, and if you look at their terms of service, there's nothing in their term. I think the only limitation they have on their terms of service with this unlimited roaming is in Canada. They have the same thing with Canada, but I suspect because they have a roaming contract with another company, they don't have AT&T in Canada. Hey, nature lover, happy Sunday. I hope you're having a good Sunday. I'm having an awesome Sunday. Yeah, Mexico. You started with well. That's the reason why I don't use U.S. AT&T. And the here's the thing. Let me also explain why I have a U.S. Cricket phone. Because people have told me, hey, just use Telcel. As a matter of fact, you can get, I think, a good plan for 300 pesos with decent amount of data. Here's the thing in Mexico. There is no unlimited data plan, no unlimited use all you want data plan. The problem nowadays with phones, and this is from a technical perspective from my background in computer science, the more technology starts to move, the more data your phone's going to eat. Back probably about 5 years ago, 2 gigabytes of data was more than enough to do whatever you want to do. But now that everything goes over data like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, all of that, so people are even calling with data on WhatsApp. Now, the good thing in Mexico is what they will do is they will say all social media, WhatsApp, Instagram is free for data. But you can eat through data very, very quickly. And me being a geek and on my phone all the time, I can eat through 15, 20, 30, even 40 gigs of data in a month. So I have an unlimited data plan with Cricket, which roams here unlimited. I usually get better coverage with Telcel than AT&T. AT&T and Telcel are the two major companies. I get better coverage with Telcel, but I only have like 5 gigabytes of data so I have to be careful. Now they do have promotions where you get double. Now some people don't fall into this because some people say, I have an AT unlimited. Well, it's unlimited talk and text. It's not unlimited data. And the way it works here is like, for example, Telcel, if you're doing prepaid, they'll just cut you off and then you have to pay for more data, or you're just out of luck until the following month if you run out of your data. So just make sure that that's why I have and that's why I keep it in Cricket, because it's really inexpensive and I can use my unlimited data here. So I'm 90% of the time I'm roaming literally here in Mexico on my US phone. And then I use my Mexican phone for business. And then if I don't get service for whatever reason, and I know on Telcel, I use a postpaid plan on Telcel, but I use it because I just want to be prioritized. And also when I talk about traveling on the roads, I usually connect to Telcel when I'm traveling on the roads because that's your best connection for tracking and all of that stuff. So I have the best of both worlds. A Mexican friend of mine, Kai, a Mexican friend of mine in the U.S. told me to find Mexicans in Ciudad Mex who will exchange pesos with me for U.S. dollars. Has anyone done this? Is this illegal? I don't know about the legality of it, Kai. The only thing is I would be worried about who would do that. Now, I am aware that in the culture, Mexicans want U.S. dollars because a lot of times they want to come over here and shop and everything else. I've seen that done within, like, for example, my family, because I have family that lives in the United States, and maybe my mother-in-law wants some dollars so that she can, because a lot of times she sends us on errands to the United States and she says, hey, buy me this or buy me that, and here's $20 or $30. So it's not uncommon. And usually for Mexicans, if you're exchanging pesos with them, you're going to give them a better rate, or they're going to want a better rate than going to a Casa de Cambio. So it makes sense that if somebody wants to exchange pesos with you, they're going to get more dollars, or they'll give you more pesos for the dollar, in the sense because of the Casa de Cambio, they're not going to get as good of a deal. But I would be very careful in doing that. unless you really know the person, unless they're really good friends of you, they're real good friends. I don't really know the legality of it. Really, most of the legal issues that you're going to run into as far as money or cash here in Mexico is when you bring it across or you take it back to the United States. And if you have a quantity of more than 10,000, and actually it's the same in Mexico. If you have a quantity of cash on you that's more than $10,000, you're supposed to report it. And and actually you just fill out a form. It's called a CMIR when you go into the United States. But here in Mexico, you also have to declare large amounts of money over $10,000. If not, they can confiscate it from you. So those are the issues you might run into. Then you might run into money banking regulations, like here. If you, actually, I think it's like 7,000. If there's a cash transaction of more than 7,000, like you actually deposit more than 7,000 pesos, you have to do a report. They have to do a report. Those are the little things that legally, when you start dealing with cash. And then the Casa de Cambios here are probably regulated by actually regulated by the Mexican government. But I would be very careful. I know somebody probably told you, hey, do that. But probably the Mexican friend probably does that with their family members, friends of friends, friends of that they know. So that's what's important, is to make sure if you're going to do that, just make sure that you're doing it with somebody that you know, not with somebody that tells you to go meet me in the square with $500 or $1,000, and you never know, they could rob you or something like that. I wouldn't even advise it. Actually, I don't even like Craigslist because of that. A lot of people swear by Craigslist. I won't do Craigslist. There's too many incidents that have happened in the United States with it, and it's the same thing. Just make sure that you be careful with doing that. And text now. I've heard of this. Actually, I've heard of this Mexico venture. It gives you, actually, a lot of people use this text now so that they can do their, believe it or not, so that they can do their banking, because a lot of your online banking, you have to have a U.S. number to be able to text and receive text. A lot of people use Google Voice. I have an old Google Voice number that I have left over from when I was still in the United States. But the problem with Google Voice is you have to kind of sign up before you come here. And some people port their phone number, their actual cell phone number, over to Google Voice. There's a small fee to do that, but you have to be over in the United States when you do that. You can't do that once you get over here. The other problem with the Google Voice is you're kind of limited to, well, you get emails, and I don't use it. I just keep it. I've had it for years, and I actually used to use it in the United States whenever I used to want to throw down a phone number that people like say, oh, can I text you information or whatever, like a spam, like they'll spam you with text. I'll usually give that. That phone number so that I know if they're going to spam me with text, it just goes nowhere. Or if someone says, hey, can I have your phone number so I can send you some promotional material? I have an email address. I do the same thing that I give away when I know that they're going to spam or send spam. But text now. The other one that's very good is supposedly Magic Jack. They have a phone app now. They used to be a little thing that's used to plug into your computer. I use Skype, but Skype doesn't have. They don't have texting abilities. That's the problem. But I do have Skype where I pay $3 a month, where I can do outgoing calls to U.S. number. So if I'm not around Wi-Fi for cricket and I have to make an emergency 1-800 number call to the United States, I get on Skype and with my $2.99, and I make my 1-800 number calls, or any call to the United States. I think with Skype, you can also get a phone number too for incoming calls, that type of thing. I've used Skype before with a phone number when I went to Jordan. When I was in Jordan, I went ahead and got a SIM card over there in Jordan. I was there for 4 or 5. I was there for actually 5 months or 6 months on a diplomatic mission there in Jordan. And in order for my wife and I to communicate, we used a combination of FaceTime. And if she needed to call me, we would use Skype. And I actually paid for the phone number for that month. And she could call me from the office when she was working at the time. She could call that Skype number and it would ring on my phone. And then I was using a SIM card from Jordan with a prepaid SIM card. So Skype is if you need to use, but nowadays, pretty much if you use Telcel, whatever, calls are unlimited in the United States anyway. This was at a time that it was kind of expensive to be making calls from a number in Jordan. But here in Mexico, you should be able to make calls. So we're almost on the hour mark here. Anybody else have any comments, any questions? If you, I'm gonna be kind of, as far as the videos coming out, I'm gonna be kind of busy. So I'll try to put some videos out. I'm gonna be going to Cozumel, so like I said, let's keep it friendly on the Facebook group. Let's keep it friendly on and also that's the other thing too. I will delete comments, but I don't delete comments or I don't hide people for the sake of just hiding people because I want to hide something. I hide it because I don't think it's right of somebody insulting somebody else. The last live stream, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up at the very beginning was during the last live stream, someone made a comment about who cares about the border with Biden. Look, I don't care if Mickey Mouse is president. I don't care who's president of the United States. I don't care who's president of Mexico. I'm only here to give you the actual facts. Everybody comes here to Mexico for a different reason. Some people come here to get away from the United States for political reasons. Some people love the culture. You know what? I don't judge anybody for why they want to come here. All I know is you want to come here and I want to help. And whatever your differences or whatever our differences, that's why I don't discuss, and I also will delete political posts from my Facebook group. I will delete political comments from my videos, and because I like to keep it pretty much neutral. Just like I say I don't take money, I also try to keep everybody neutral. And, keep your political opinions to yourself, religious opinions to yourself. Not that I have any problems with any of them, but just make sure that, we respect each other because everybody wants to come here to Mexico. And you know what? We come here from different paths in life. So that's what's important. And then also, Sedona, just one last question. Did anyone fly recently back to the U.S.? I was told to look into a camera on the U.S. passport control. Did the U.S. start scanning irises? Yes, the U.S. actually started doing facial recognition. They've been doing it. CBP's been doing it for years. Actually, on the land borders, pretty much when you cross, they take your picture coming across. This has been going on for years. It's nothing new. The airports now are probably they actually started with fingerprints, where you put your finger down on a fingerprint scanner. Now with facial recognition, that it's gotten even better. Now they have that at the airports. Actually, believe it or not, this is really interesting and just off topic. But when we went to Cabo, you can register your face with Viva Aerobus, which is one of the air carriers here. I don't know. I know people are going to say it's kind of. I didn't register my face. But it might be a security issue, but you can register your face with Viva Aerobus, and then instead of presenting your boarding pass, you just go in front of the camera, it looks at your face, recognizes your face, and say, keep going. And they're instituting that. And I wouldn't even doubt if the American Airlines would start doing that. And Viva Aerobus is an actual budget airline here in Mexico. I don't know if any of the other airlines are doing it. So you guys, like I always say, stay safe, stay informed, and until on my not next week, my next stream, we'll see you soon. The other thing also, just a quick comment before we go. If you want a certain subject covered on one of my live streams, let me know. Also, if you like this, where you like to just do open discussion, because I know that a lot of people like to do open discussion, let me know too. If you like this format too, if you liked it or disliked it, hey, I'll go for the dislikes too. I'm non, but it also helps me get my a like or a dislike, no matter what. It's an interaction as far as YouTube's concerned. So just whatever you do, give us a like or a dislike. And if you didn't like this format, it also helps me, because if I get like 50 million dislikes, then no one liked it. Then it helps me improve my content. So we'll see you soon. And like I said again, stay safe and stay safe and stay informed. And we'll see you next time.